Okay. What's up, everybody? It's Alan and Gus. There's Gus. Say hey, Gus. All right. I just wanted to talk again here for a few minutes without any notes this time. I find that it kind of distracts me, so I'm just gonna somewhat chat for a few minutes. First off, on my videos, I'm going to start putting what you may have clicked on to see this is my artwork. I draw lots of things and I like painting and different things as that. And it's really important to me because it's been part of my God, healing process and what's assisted me in getting through a lot of my addictions, which that's I believe is going to be the subject of what I want to chat about, what me and Gus wants to talk about for a few minutes. Don't look at me like that, Gus. Anyways, yeah, there's as I said in another video, there's no substance I can think of that I've not been sorry about that, strung out on for not just for a year or so when I was 17 or 18. I mean for like decades, what have you. The main thing being opiates. Suboxone saved my life, and then after that, kratom helped me with the Suboxone. But there's a few things I want to talk about the treatment of addiction, which seems to be the way that it's treated these days, and in particular, like every case is different. That's the big hurdle that everyone must go that we got to jump across is that every case is different. You know, let's see, like Suboxone. I don't think personally that people should be given 2 or 3 strips to take a day, and that's just my opinion. And sorry if I jump around. If you can bear with me, all this stuff is coming from a genuine place. Again, like I've said before, Gus gets sick of hearing this. He's the only one I talk to about this. So now I'm talking to the YouTube people. Um, but yeah, I think that there's that every case, if someone's actually wanting to get better, no matter what they're addicted to, that it has to be taken on in a fresh slate type thing instead of, someone going into a rehab center and the person behind the desk assuming everybody else takes a whole strip a day or a half a strip or this and that. Just talk about the Suboxone. I think that there's a multi-angled approach that should be taken. Not to say that there isn't an attempt with this. You got counseling and this and that, but I mean a more less restrictions. Like marijuana, cannabis. That's I think one of the greatest things that God ever made. It's so helpful with things. Like go back to the Suboxone. People say, well, Suboxone still gets you high. Well, if you think about it, you're giving the Suboxone to someone who's getting better from years of using something that got them extremely high. So you're getting them, kind of high. It's a tapering off type thing. Again, it's a case by case thing. And I say, when you're addicted to something for a long time, like or you have a very expensive habit, like I did, and end up having to, constantly steal, and no matter how much you get, it's never enough type situation. What you do during those years is you grow an extra appendage, almost like a third arm, or it could be said, your third eye, because everything you see anywhere, like for just me, for example, I was on, extremely expensive heavy duty pain pills for a long time. If at Christmas time, if someone got me a gift, or if I seen something on the side of the road, or if I seen something that I wanted to take, again, I've never hurt anybody or whatever. I've done a lot of stealing though. I didn't see the object. I could see a logging chain, somewhere on a job site, and I would look at it and be like, how much in scrap is that? I seen how much money it could get me, and how if I could get a quarter of a pill or a half of one or whatever. And I'm not talking about Suboxone. Everything you see is just a dollar sign that goes to feed the one object. You figure out ways of how do you say, finessing people out of money, scheming, doing all of these different activities as a human being under the spell of addiction. That when you get better, or how whatever route's taken to get better, it's like you've grown an extra sense almost that was always busy trying to acquire the drug. And for me, my art work has helped to pacify that extra sense, because you become clever when you're on drugs. Again, depending on the drugs, some people that most definitely isn't the case, but it is like you develop something, an extra ability to be able to squander and squeeze money out of things that generally, if you didn't have that drive to get that substance, you wouldn't fool with. And after years of doing that, you have an extra awareness, it could be said, I suppose. And that should be, I think that like something like that should be tended to when it comes to getting better, especially with this like fentanyl and the opiates and this and things like that. And moving along, I back to the Suboxone when they say, "Oh, that still gets you high." Here, let me say this, and I've heard this before, even spoken to me when I went from doing, oxymorphone or Opana is what it's called, or around here, they call it all kinds of different stuff. It's an extremely powerful pain pill. That was my bag for a long time, and big, the big pills, the 40 milligrams, were when I quit $160 a pill, $160 a pill, and I could do more than one a day if I were able. But when you get on, for example, just like Suboxone or even kratom, but we'll you know talk about Suboxone for a minute. People who don't really know, they'll say a phrase like this: "Well, aren't you just trading one habit for another?" And I think that anyone says that ought to either be fined or thrown in jail overnight, because that's the most that's so that it's like, yeah, you know what, I am trading one habit for another. The one habit, I was funding people who sold drugs, I was doing things that were illegal, it was costing me every penny that I could get a hold of, or not, every single day, and making me just a useless citizen to another habit that cost me about $10 a day, which is legal. And though it may fatten the pockets of some doctors who prescribe it, it's not going into the more underworld of the drug culture. But yeah, anyone who says that, I think that there ought to be a fine with that. Again, I'm just kidding, because you ought to be able to say whatever you want about anything. But it's foolish. It's so discouraging when someone hears, even myself, when I've heard things like that, if I were discourageable, I would be discouraged, because ain't you just trading one habit for another? That gets you high too, don't it? It's like, do you not understand what the person's saying to you when they say that they've, on Suboxone? So we need to, I think people need to cut that out. And it mostly comes from people who's never really had a problem. They may have drank and done a little cocaine in their high school days, but don't have no idea what it's like to be addicted, you know, uh, again, to where you're stealing from your family and stuff like that. I've done that for years, man. I mean, there ain't nothing I haven't done to get my drugs, dude. It's awful, a lot of things I would be willing to say, but only if I were asked. It's terrible. It could be embarrassing, again, if we were embarrassable, but it's just me and Gus here in our tent. But I think it should be handled different. And moving along with the recovery of these things, take marijuana for instance. A lot of people, especially in combination with Suboxone or just using it alone, but a lot of the people that I've experienced or been around, especially the ones who are on the hard drugs consistently, say, "Oh, I hate weed. I don't like weed. It makes me paranoid, or I don't like it. It makes me feel funny." If you were to get them by themselves, or get them to be honest with you when you say, "What do you mean you don't like it? It makes you paranoid?" The answer that they're going to give you is basically this: it allows them to see reality better. They start thinking about their actions. They start, you know, that's the paranoia. They think, they start, uh, it makes them realize things that they wouldn't have thought of before hitting the joint a few times or whatever. And being strung out on drugs, normally your general set mentality isn't willing to look in the mirror. And I think that cannabis helps that a lot. And if I don't know, getting that specific dosage amount and this and that, but I think they, goodness, I could go on and on about this. It's a case by case basis. You know, there's no difference between any of us, and we ought to realize that. Like, um, the like commercials you see on television, or I've seen on television. We don't watch it very much at all, about these medicines and stuff. I used to joke with a guy I know, call them music videos for these prescription drugs, because that's what it is. Everybody's doing the same thing. It's like, if you don't really know what the ailment is, you just see everybody at a barbecue or going swimming or on a cruise, and then they put the medicine across the top of it. So it's like, a music video advertising it. Don't say what it's for, just ask your doctor. You can make fun of that all you want, and it is easy to do, and the side effects are somewhat absurd. And by the way, that's the side effects of each individual medicine alone, not combined with other stuff. But anyways, the more important fact is, out of the 10 million people that's taken that, whatever medicine it is that has a music video or whatever, if it's changed one person's life and made their quality of life better and actually been like a miracle drug for them, then you have to wipe away all of the criticism whatsoever. That's what I mean by a case by case basis, um, if that makes sense. But I think there ought to be much, going back to the Suboxone and marijuana thing. Again, bear with me. Uh, if you get someone who's detoxing from hardcore opiates, in particular, heroin, fentanyl, and strong pain pills, which I'm familiar with all of them, uh, it's, the withdrawals. If you can just knock that down to where they're not withdrawing, quit looking at these people like, well, Suboxone gets them high too. Again, through all these crowds of people, there's going to be people that there's no help for, but it shouldn't get in the way of, there might be, even if there's one out of every 10 addicts that actually wants to get better, then you've got to, do it case by case. You ought to have somebody in there that knows. But I think if you can knock down the physical withdrawal symptoms and then just go over enough to get them, knock the edge off and give them some marijuana, that's how I quit myself. But again, this is just one case. I think different amounts of different things, you have to almost, somebody that's on something that hardcore, you can't just either get them to cold turkey. You can, some people do, some don't, or even like switch them over to normal life Suboxone or whatever. You almost have to trade something for it. Eh, it's the lesser of two evils type thing, and then work your way to getting better. I heard a guy talking, I believe it was on Joe Rogan, whom I love his podcast, by the way, and Lex Friedman. But anyways, uh, he was he was saying, how like an alcoholic, for just a example, that wakes up in the morning and takes five little mini shooters of vodka first thing in the morning and has for years, and drinking like that. If you can implement a program or work with them to where they're taking two shots in the morning. Now, if they don't get any less than that and continue taking two shots, are they still a hopeless cause? It's like, if you can just start at least nudging them on the way to getting better. You have to, when you live a lifestyle that consists of H's, or heroin and fentanyl and stuff like that. There's more to it than just the drug. There's the getting of it, the anticipating of it arriving, the there's just so much more to it. And honestly, it can be put like this: there needs to be a little bit more excitement in the recovery process. And if you introduce cannabis in the, even the small amounts, and things of that nature, maybe less of the pharmaceuticals. I don't want to get in on that, because again, if everybody is different, every single person is different. But I think it's not being handled properly, especially when anybody, again, bear with me, I'm just talking. But again, as a former addict and have been on everything, and off and on a few times, but mainly on, until as of for quite a while, we'll say now, long enough to definitely know better for sure. You've got to replace, give them something to feed that part of them that's been being fed for the past 20 years about excitement about chasing pills. You got to give them a little something else, and if that makes sense to anybody. And so anyone who talks about you're just trading one habit for another, again, my personal opinion is they ought to be fined for that shit, and then take the money from those fines and put towards recovery center. It's just a terrible way to think. But I myself haven't experienced knowing what it's like to in my subconscious say, well, I'm never going to be off from this. I can't even ever, don't even want to think about being off from it, to actually having been off from it. I've seen a thing in my email because I've taken, I haven't in a while, our finances doesn't allow, and it's not necessary, but kratom from time to time, anything that helps. And, but anybody that makes the remark, well, don't that get you high too? It's like, well, it depends. It depends. What do you mean by high? And had you rather go back to the other habit and stuff? And Suboxone is hard for me to come off from. Like I mentioned, I use kratom to get off from that. The Big Pink brand. I'm not advertising anything. There's lots of good brands, but the Hippo brand has helped me out a lot. It saved my life just as sure as Suboxone saved my life when I. Yeah, yeah, and that just kind of happened. I might get into that in another video, but it's a case by case basis. But what people are missing out on is these, and I'll go ahead and say it, psychedelics. I think are well, they're not just fun, but it can be helpful in a lot of ways too. Because anything that allows for someone to see themselves, go back to like I said, when a lot of people, especially hard drug users, smoke pot, they say it makes them paranoid. And if you again get alone with them and find out what they mean by that, they'll begin to tell you, like, I start realizing things that I didn't realize before and seeing things. It's like when you come down from the pot high, are those things non-existent? Or it can assist you like that, like implementing psychedelics and pot and stuff like that. So and even in there's so many that you can go down where I live at, you can buy it mushrooms at the gas station. There, it says no psilocybin on it. It's almost hard to tell, but I'm getting off track here. But I think it's not handled like it ought to be. I think there's too many restraints on the whole recovery process. What is that? There you go, Gus. I'm just on the phone. Uh, Too many restraints because of people whom abuse the system, and it ruins it for, let's say 1 out of every 10 or even 1 out of every 20 people that tries to go through a rehab process is actually serious or actually has it inside them to get better. I think that the restraints, they can say you can't be giving away pot at a Suboxone clinic where everybody's wearing white coats and you got your counselor in there and this and that. I think there should be, and furthermore, activities like initiating activities. If you take somebody who's just coming off from, say, fentanyl and they're on Suboxone, it's a life alt. It's so much more than just the substance changing. It's so much more than their habits changing. It's so much more than getting their life back. It can't be put into words. The best way to try to put words on it will be it's an entire lifestyle change, but that's easy to say. That's too easy to say. But if you had activities in there to implement, say art or whatever, and again, that's why I'm going to start putting on my pictures. And if you click on it, sorry, you don't get the talking character I've drawn instead of me or whatever. But implementing art, music, stuff like that. And now, hear me out. And on top of that, having a program if where you can be given cannabis in certain level. Again, you can go down to the gas station where I live in Tennessee and get what's called THCA or whatever, and as a well seasoned substance user of all sorts, that works just fine. I mean, just one hit off from the stuff. If instead of Suboxone, come back, take a P test, talk to the doctor, and go. Come back next week, come and hang out, or send them to a place to hang out to where they can take their Suboxone. And when the pill sickness or the dope sickness is gone from the Suboxone and they've got a little bit of an edge and it ain't nothing like they're used to. That's why a lot of people quit it, because even when they have the sickness knocked out, they don't like just being baseline. At that point, give them some marijuana, put them in a group of people that are a drawing class or whatever. I would volunteer my time, take Gus and just draw and cut up with people and hang out. It's so much more than meeting a counselor. Whether they've been an addict in the past or not, it's not relevant. Sometimes it helps. Like, I don't believe that any law enforcement officer should ever be able to wear a badge unless they themselves have been put in a cage before, so they know what they're doing. Again, that's a different story altogether. uh, or for a different time. But yeah, I think, and I'm going to keep, as I say, making videos in particular about getting better and enjoying life, because my childhood. How long is this? Oh, about 20 minutes. My childhood wasn't bad. I'll go into and in the next video perhaps further, because I could just go on and on about this stuff. But out of all the things I've done, the shady stuff, I mean, just done some bad things and it's all been controlled by that drug. But anyways, I'll try to get another one on here pretty quick to pick up where I've left off from here. But there's so many other ways to implement getting better for people, and people getting better, that has restrictions on it, because some people want to abuse the system. It honestly, just common sense would help, but in a reset of society too. But anyways, I'm gonna try to keep videos not too long, and I will make another one here pretty soon. And if you've been here with me that long, and not just scratching your head, like I hope I'm make myself clear. I try to articulate, or I hope I've artic. I hope whoever's listening or watching be able to understand me and what I'm saying, because it's something I feel very passionate about, because it's such a dark force, and there's so many other ways to handle it than the small handful of ways that we have now. So I appreciate it, everyone, and I hope everybody has a good day, and be nice to each other. All right, Gus, say bye, Gus. All right, thanks.